Welcome, chosen ones. Wake up and listen, because I'm not here to pat you on the back. I'm here to remind you who the hell you are. A snake will bite you and still act offended when you cut off its head. And yet here you are, still standing in shock, still replaying the betrayal, still wondering why they did it. Why? Because they were always snakes. Because they never respected you, never valued you, only saw you as something to use, something to break. And you let them. You let them smile in your face while sharpening their knives. You let them whisper sweet lies while plotting your downfall. And now you sit there, licking your wounds, thinking of revenge. Pathetic. That's what they want. They want your energy. They want your reaction. They want you to throw away your power, your dignity, just to fight on their level. That's how they win, by dragging you into the dirt where they live. But you were never meant to roll in the mud with pigs. You were meant to rise above them and let them choke on the dust of your success. Understand this. Your silence is a guillotine hanging over their heads. Every day they wake up, they wonder, is today the day it all comes crashing down? They smile, they laugh, they pretend they're fine. But at night, oh, at night, the guilt creeps in like a shadow in the corner of the room. Because they know karma doesn't forget. They know what they did, and they know deep down it's coming for them. And the most terrifying part, they don't know when. So sit back and let karma do what karma does best. Let it dismantle them piece by piece. Let them pretend they're safe while the walls close in. Let them watch their own empire crumble beneath their feet, knowing there's no one left to blame but themselves. But you have one job. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop whining about the betrayal. Stop wasting breath on people who were never meant to sit at your table. You are chosen. Do you hear me? Chosen. That means your path is not theirs. That means your energy is sacred. That means your presence is a privilege, and they lost that privilege the moment they crossed you. So act like it. Stand up. Wipe your tears. Get back to building, back to rising, back to being the force they never should have messed with. Because the best revenge? It's not proving them wrong. It's making them irrelevant. And they will be, soon. And you, yes, you, chosen one, don't think for a second that you landed here by accident. Whether you've been walking this path alone for years or just now realizing the power you hold, know this. Your presence here means something. This is your reminder, your wake-up call, your moment to stand in your truth. If you're done explaining yourself to those who never deserved access to you, if you're ready to let karma do the talking, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop 77 in the comments to mark the moment you stop chasing revenge and start owning your silence. And now, let's break it all down, step by step. Stay till the end, because if you truly are one of the chosen, you'll feel the pull to see this through. Let's get started. Number 1. They dug the grave. Now they fear falling in. A man can run from his enemies, but he can never outrun his own shadow. They thought they were clever, thought they could betray you, slander you, play their little mind games, and walk away unscathed. Thought they could smile while stabbing you in the back, then carry on like nothing happened. But here's what they never saw coming. The silence. Your silence. See, when a chosen one doesn't retaliate, something terrifying happens. The game they played so well suddenly turns against them. The thrill of watching you suffer turns into the slow, suffocating weight of their own actions. They thought you'd fight back, rage, seek revenge, because that's what they would do. But when you didn't, when you simply walked away and let the universe balance the scales, That's when the real punishment began. Because guilt is patient. It doesn't hit them right away. No, it waits. It lurks in the quiet moments, creeping in when the laughter fades, when the distractions run out, when they're alone with nothing but their own thoughts. At first, they deny it. They tell themselves you deserved it, that they had to do what they did. They invent justifications, twisting reality to make themselves feel right. But deep down, something starts to shift. The lies they told themselves don't sound so convincing anymore. The excuses start to crumble. And that's when the walls begin to close in, because without your anger, without your reaction to fuel their self-righteousness, they have nowhere left to place the blame. No enemy to fight, no war to justify. Just the truth staring them in the face. And the truth? It's brutal. The moment they crossed you, they sealed their fate. They built their own downfall, brick by brick, lie by lie, betrayal by betrayal. And now they're trapped inside it. Every quiet moment is a mirror reflecting back what they did. Every shadow a reminder that karma never forgets an address. They tell themselves time will fix it, that eventually it'll fade. But it doesn't. Because every time they see you rise, every time they hear your name, every time they realize you are still standing, still thriving, it reminds them of the mistake they made. And the worst part? They can't undo it. They burned the bridge, and now they stand on the other side, watching you move forward while they remain stuck. They thought they won, thought they had the upper hand, thought they broke you. But in reality, they broke themselves. Because the power of the chosen one isn't in retaliation. It's in knowing that you never had to lift a finger. You never had to chase revenge, never had to lower yourself to their level. You simply had to exist, move forward, live. And that alone became their greatest punishment. And now they sit in the wreckage of their own choices, haunted by the one truth they can't escape. You were the one person they never should have crossed. Number 2, the longer they wait, the louder it gets. The axe never worries about the tree it cuts, but the stump never forgets. They thought they were done with you, thought they could betray you, walk away, and leave it all in the past like a bad dream. Thought they could wipe their hands clean and move on while you drowned in the wreckage they created. But life doesn't work that way. Because while revenge is fast, karma is slow, and slow is so much worse. See, when someone stabs you in the back, they expect a reaction. They need a reaction. They want to see the rage in your eyes, the fire in your words. They want proof that they got under your skin, that they still hold power over you. Because if you react, it means you're still playing their game. It means they still matter. But when you don't, when you simply keep walking like they never existed, that's when the real nightmare begins. Because now, they're the ones left waiting. At first, they assume you're just planning something in the shadows. They get paranoid, looking over their shoulder, double-checking their steps. They second-guess their choices, wondering if they were too reckless. They brace for impact, thinking any moment now you'll strike back. But then days pass, weeks, months, and nothing happens. Nothing from you. No revenge, no confrontation, no attempt to get even. Just silence. And that's when time turns against them. Because now they don't know if it's coming or when. They don't know if you truly moved on, or if the universe is just waiting for the right moment to serve the consequences. They start overanalyzing every minor inconvenience, every failed plan, every betrayal they experience, every stroke of bad luck. It all starts looking like payback, like the storm is building right above them, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And when people don't know when the punishment is coming, they begin to punish themselves. Their mind turns into a battlefield. They lose sleep, replaying what they did to you, dissecting every choice, wondering, was that the moment I sealed my fate? Every shadow looks like a warning. Every delay feels like an omen. They see your name somewhere randomly and their stomach drops. They hear a song that reminds them of you, and suddenly they feel that pit in their chest. The same way they once laughed at your pain, they now find themselves haunted by their own actions. And you've done absolutely nothing. That's the power of being chosen. You don't have to play their game. You don't have to seek revenge. You don't even have to think about them. Because while they rot in their own paranoia, you are rising. While they're busy looking over their shoulder, you're too focused on your future to even remember their names. And that's the real punishment. Not the fear of karma, not the paranoia, not the sleepless nights. It's the realization that they never even mattered enough for you to seek revenge. That's what shatters them. The knowledge that after all they did, after all the effort they put into destroying you, you still won. And worse, they don't even exist in your story anymore. That's the quiet mockery of time. It doesn't hit them all at once. It lets them stew, lets them squirm, lets them wonder. It builds little by little until one day, when they least expect it, the weight of it all comes crashing down. And by then, you'll be so far ahead, they won't even be a footnote in your story. Number 3, they wanted a battle, but you left them to fight themselves. A guilty mind is its own executioner. They were ready for war. They had their excuses lined up, their lies rehearsed, their justifications polished and ready to go. They thought they had you figured out, thought they could hurt you and still come out looking like the victim. But then you did the one thing they never expected. Nothing. And that shattered their entire plan. See, when someone betrays you, they need you to react. They crave it. Your anger, your pain, your retaliation, it all serves one purpose, to make them feel justified. If you lash out, they can point and say, "See? That's why I did it. That's why I had no choice." Your reaction allows them to rewrite the story in their head, where you are the villain and they are the misunderstood hero. But when you don't play along, when you simply walk away, that's when the cracks start forming. At first, they pretend they don't care. They convince themselves they did nothing wrong. They talk badly about you, spin their version of the story, gather people to their side. They distract themselves, surround themselves with noise. But when the world goes quiet, when there's no one left to lie to but themselves, that's when reality starts creeping in. And the reflection in the mirror isn't kind. Because now, without your anger to deflect onto, they have nowhere to run. The truth they tried so hard to bury starts clawing its way to the surface. They replay the betrayal, the manipulation, the destruction they caused. But this time, they see it clearly. They weren't the victim. They were the villain. And there's no one left to blame. That's the power of the mirror effect. Without your retaliation to focus on, they are left alone with their own reflection. And the more they look, the more they see. Every flaw, every insecurity, every dark, ugly part of themselves they tried to project onto you. They see the lies they told, the trust they shattered, the damage they inflicted. And worst of all, they see you, still standing, unbothered, rising. And that's when the guilt turns into something worse. Regret. Because they finally understand you weren't just another person they could step on. You were the one person who actually mattered. The one who saw them for who they truly were. The one who offered loyalty. The one who could have stood by their side for life. And now, you're gone. Not because of karma, not because of revenge, but because they destroyed the only person who ever truly saw them. And that That's a truth they can never escape. This was never just about karma. This was always about power, the power of choosing peace over revenge, the power of refusing to engage, the power of moving on so completely that they become irrelevant. Because the ultimate punishment isn't what you do to them, it's what you don't. So let them sit with their guilt. Let time work its magic. Let the mirror reflect the truth they tried so hard to avoid. Meanwhile, you rise, you move forward, you thrive, not by fighting, not by proving anything, but by refusing to let their betrayal define you. And that's the sweetest form of justice. Number 4. They wanted to live in your head. Now they can't escape their own. There is no prison more brutal than the mind of a guilty man. They thought they left a scar so deep it would never fade, thought their betrayal would brand itself onto your soul, that no matter how much time passed, you'd still carry them with you. They wanted to be the ghost that haunted you, the weight you could never shake. But here's where they failed. You healed, and now they're the ones who can't let go. See, people who hurt you assume they've taken up permanent space in your mind. They expect to live there rent-free, assuming every step you take is somehow still about them. They want to believe they broke you, that no matter what you do, a part of you is still trapped in the moment they betrayed you. But when you move on, when you truly move forward, untouched, unbothered, that's when their nightmare begins. Because suddenly, they realize they weren't as powerful as they thought. At first, they wait for your reaction. They watch from the shadows, expecting the anger, the bitterness, the passive-aggressive posts, the not-so-subtle jabs. They brace for the confrontation, the fallout, the war. But then, nothing. Just silence. You don't lash out. You don't seek revenge. You don't even acknowledge their existence. And that stings deeper than any words ever could. Because the worst thing you could ever do to someone who tried to break you is show them that they didn't matter, that their betrayal was nothing more than a temporary inconvenience, that after all their effort to destroy you, they ended up being just another forgotten chapter in a book you've long since closed. And while you rise, they stay stuck. Their mind becomes a battlefield of its own making, replaying the past, analyzing where they lost control. They start second-guessing themselves, wondering if you ever think about them, if you ever cared at all, if you ever will again. They tell themselves they were right, that what they did was necessary, but deep down, something eats away at them. Because if they were so right, why are they the ones who can't move on? And that's the real punishment. Not karma, not revenge, but the unbearable reality that they put in all that effort to destroy you, and you don't even care. For them, it's torment. For you, it's freedom. Because in the end, the real victory isn't proving them wrong. It's forgetting they ever existed in the first place. Number 5. They wanted to pull the strings, but you cut the whole damn puppet show. The cruelest punishment isn't pain, it's irrelevance. Betrayal isn't just about hurting you, it's about owning you. They wanted more than just your pain. They wanted control. Control over your emotions, your thoughts, your peace. They wanted to make you dance to their tune, react on command, stay tangled in a web they designed. Because as long as you're reacting, you're still connected to them. And that's the part they never say out loud. They don't want to lose you completely. Even if it's through hatred, through war, through chaos, they still want to matter. They still want a hold on you. They want to be the villain in your story because it means they never truly leave it. And that's why revenge? It's a trap. It feels like power, like justice. But really, it's just another leash, another way to keep you tied to them, playing their game, moving in response to their moves. It means they still have influence over you, that even in betrayal, they dictate your next step. But when you step back, when you refuse to engage, when you cut the strings completely, that's when everything really falls apart. Because without your anger, without your attention, without your energy feeding their ego, they lose control. And that's when karma steps in. See, karma doesn't operate on the rules of revenge. It doesn't come when they expect it, in a way they can predict. And that's what makes it terrifying. They don't know when it will strike, how it will strike, or what the consequences will be. They can't manipulate it, can't twist the story, can't prepare for the fallout. All they can do is sit in the uncertainty, drowning in the silence they once mocked, wondering if today is the day everything crashes down. And here's the real beauty of it, that fear alone is already karma at work. Because while they spiral, while they unravel in the mess of their own making, you're free. No more bitterness, no more wasted energy, no more playing a game that was never meant for you. You rise, you move forward, you win, not by fighting, not by proving anything, but by refusing to give them the satisfaction of your attention. And while they're left chasing shadows, unraveling in paranoia, watching their own world collapse, you get to enjoy the sweetest kind of revenge, the kind that requires absolutely nothing from you at all. Number 6. They wanted a war, but you left them fighting ghosts. The sharpest sword is the one never drawn. They were ready, ready for battle, ready to see you crumble, ready to feel powerful in your destruction. They needed your reaction because without it, their betrayal felt empty. It was never just about hurting you, it was about watching you suffer. They needed proof that their actions had weight, that they mattered enough to break you. But when you didn't fight back, when you simply walked away, that shattered them more than any revenge ever could. A fight requires two people. Without you, there is no war, just a fool swinging at empty air. At first, they tell themselves you're still coming for them, that you're just waiting for the right moment to strike. They convince themselves you're still thinking about them as much as they obsess over you. But time keeps moving. The weeks turn to months, and yet nothing happens. No retaliation, no confrontation, no desperate attempts to expose them or ruin their name. You don't even acknowledge their existence. That's when the truth sinks in. You're not ignoring them, you've outgrown them, and that realization, it burns deeper than anything else. They start grasping for control, throwing out bait, hoping to get a rise out of you. Maybe they spread lies, twisting the story so they can still play the victim. Maybe they try to provoke you, whispering your name in circles just loud enough for you to hear. Maybe they flaunt fake success, hoping to make you jealous, to make you feel like you lost something. But it doesn't work, because while they are still stuck, still replaying old battles, still fighting an invisible war in their own mind, you've left them behind completely. And that is their real punishment. Not karma, not revenge. Just the cold, unbearable truth that the person they tried to destroy doesn't even consider them an opponent anymore. They don't matter. They never did. They thought they were playing chess with you, strategizing their every move, waiting for your next counter. But you weren't even on the board. You walked away and built something greater, something they could never be part of, something beyond their reach. And now, while you rise, while you thrive, while you live, they are left swinging at shadows, fighting a war that ended the moment you decided it wasn't worth your time. Number 7. Their worst nightmare. You thrived without them. Some people burn bridges thinking it will destroy you. They forget. You know how to swim. They thought they had the power to leave a permanent scar on your soul. They thought their betrayal would be the wound you'd never recover from, the storm you'd never survive. In their mind, you were supposed to need them, to obsess, to crumble, to beg for explanations that would never come. They imagined you stuck in the wreckage they created, drowning in bitterness, replaying every moment, plotting ways to get even. But instead of breaking, you built. Instead of seeking revenge, you evolved. And now, your success isn't just a personal victory, it's their worst nightmare. Because they expected you to be stuck. They expected you to stay wounded, waiting for closure, desperate to prove something. They wanted you to stay in their orbit, to keep checking for updates, to still be watching them, even from a distance. But what they never saw coming was your complete indifference. You didn't just move on, you leveled up. And that burns deeper than any grudge you could have held. At first, they pretend not to care. They'll roll their eyes, dismiss your growth, tell themselves your glow-up is temporary, fake, an illusion. They'll scoff at your wins, make up excuses to justify your success, convince themselves you just got lucky. But deep down, in the silence of their own mind, they know the truth. Every single step you take forward is a reminder that they didn't break you. Every achievement proves that their betrayal wasn't as powerful as they thought. Every time they hear your name, see your progress, or realize just how far you've come, it kills them. And the worst part? They don't get to be part of the story anymore. They have to watch from the sidelines as you thrive, knowing they once had access to you and lost it. That's the real punishment, not your anger, not your revenge, just your absence. The cold, undeniable truth that their actions didn't destroy you. They erased themselves from your life. They try to ignore it. They try to distract themselves. They try to find someone else to fill the void. But deep down, the regret is eating them alive. Because they see it now, they had someone rare, someone real, someone who actually cared. And they threw it away, thinking they could do better. But now, looking around, they realize the truth. You were the best thing they ever had, and they will never have access to you again. And nothing is more painful than that. That's why they lurk in the shadows, hoping for a glimpse, hoping for a sign that you still care. That's why they bring up your name, hoping to hear that you still mention them. That's why they keep tabs on your life, searching for any sign that they still exist to you. But they don't, because while they are stuck in the past, reliving old moments, replaying old mistakes, holding on to a version of you that no longer exists, you're too busy living. You're building something greater, something untouchable, something they could never be part of. You've risen so high that they can't even reach the level you're playing at anymore. And that's the deepest cut of all. They don't get to matter to you. They don't get a reaction. They don't even get closure. Because you have better things to do than worry about people who don't belong in your future. So let them sit in their regret. Let them wonder what could have been. Let them feel the loss of something they will never get back. And you, keep thriving, keep evolving, keep becoming the unstoppable force you were always meant to be. Because in the end, the worst thing you could ever do to them isn't hate them. It's forgetting they ever existed. Number 8. They wanted you to break. Now they're the ones falling apart. The trap they set for you became the hole they fell into. They thought they had you cornered, thought they could push you to the edge, shatter your spirit, and watch you collapse under the weight of their betrayal. They needed to see you suffer. It was never just about hurting you. It was about watching you lose yourself because of them. But the moment they counted you out, That was their first mistake. Because instead of breaking, you transformed. Instead of crumbling, you rose. You took every ounce of pain they inflicted and turned it into fuel. You sharpened your mind, strengthened your soul, and built a version of yourself they never saw coming. And now, they're the ones falling apart. At first, they pretended not to care. They laughed, mocked, acted like your absence meant nothing. But time has a way of revealing the truth. And now, as they sit in the wreckage of their own choices, the realization is eating them alive. You survived without them. Worse than that, you thrived. They thought they could move on easily, thought life would reward their deception, thought their actions would have no consequences. But the universe doesn't forget. And now, as everything they once controlled starts slipping through their fingers, they see it clearly. They destroyed something real, something rare, something they will never get back. And now, they're the ones drowning in regret. Every time they hear your name, see your success, or realize just how far you've come, it haunts them. The silence you left behind is louder than any words you could have spoken. The absence of your energy, your presence, your loyalty, it's a wound they can't escape. And the most brutal part, they did it to themselves. They thought you would chase them, beg for explanations, try to mend what they shattered. But instead, you walked away and never looked back. And that is their real punishment. Because now, while they sit bitter and broken, watching from the shadows, trying to convince themselves they made the right choice, you're too busy winning to even notice. Number 9. They set the fire to destroy you. Now they're the ones burning. Some people light fires thinking they'll watch you burn. Instead, they only end up choking on the smoke. They planned your downfall like an arsonist setting a match to dry timber, convinced they would stand back and watch you go up in flames. They wanted you to crumble, to lose everything, to be consumed by the destruction they caused. They didn't just want to hurt you, they wanted to erase you. But what they didn't realize, you are the fire. Instead of burning, you walked through the flames and came out forged in steel, stronger, sharper, untouchable. They thought the betrayal, the lies, the manipulation would reduce you to ashes. But all it did was expose their own weakness. Because while you were out rebuilding, rising, thriving, they were the ones left suffocating in the mess they created. At first, they thought they had won. They laughed at your pain, celebrated your struggle, convinced themselves they had taken something from you that you could never recover. But fire is unpredictable. It doesn't always burn what you expect. And now, the flames have turned on them. One by one, the walls they built start collapsing. Their own deception catches up to them. The same people they manipulated turn against them. The lies unravel. The foundation they stood on crumbles beneath their feet. Because the universe never lets evil go unchecked for long. And now, as the embers of their own destruction rise around them, they finally see the truth. They were never in control. They set the fire, but they forgot one thing. Karma doesn't burn the innocent. And now, while they scramble to put out the flames, desperate to undo the damage, you're already miles ahead. You didn't just survive, you became unstoppable. You are no longer in the ashes. You are no longer even in the same world as them. They wanted to watch you suffer. Now they're the ones screaming for air. And you're too far gone to even hear them. Number 10. They wrote you off. Now they're forced to watch your rise. They buried you, thinking it was over. They didn't realize you were a seed. They dismissed you, counted you out, laughed behind your back, convinced you would never make it without them. They saw your pain, your setbacks, your struggles, and thought they had the final say in your story. They assumed their betrayal, their rejection, their abandonment was enough to end you. But instead of fading into nothing, you rose. Every time they doubted you, you got stronger. Every time they expected you to fail, you proved them wrong. Not by words, not by revenge, but by sheer, undeniable success. They thought they had buried you, but all they really did was plant the roots of your greatness. At first, they didn't believe it. They told themselves it was luck, that you were faking it, that you'd come crawling back. But time has a way of exposing the truth. And now, as they sit stagnant, watching you rise higher than they ever imagined, the realization is setting in. They made the biggest mistake of their lives by letting you go. And the worst part? There's nothing they can do about it. They have to watch from the sidelines, knowing they had access to you once and lost it forever. They scroll through your success, hear your name in places they never expected, see you thriving in ways they swore you never would. And every win of yours? It's a reminder that their presence in your life was never essential. They thought you would always be beneath them. Now, they can't even reach you. That's the real pain. Not your anger, not your retaliation, but the cold, hard truth that they no longer matter. And now, while they sit in the shadows, bitter and regretful, you continue to rise, so high that they'll spend the rest of their lives wondering how they ever had the audacity to doubt you. Number 11. They wrote you off. Now they're forced to watch your rise. They buried you thinking it was over. They didn't realize you were a seed. They dismissed you without a second thought, counted you out, treated you like you were replaceable, disposable, like your worth depended on their validation. They laughed, whispered, convinced themselves you would never make it without them. In their minds, your pain, your setbacks, your struggles were proof that they had won, that you would never rise above what they did to you. They assumed they had the final say in your story. But what they failed to understand? You were never dependent on them. You were always destined to rise, whether they were in your life or not. And that's exactly what you did. Every time they doubted you, you got stronger. Every time they expected you to fail, you proved them wrong, not by shouting, not by chasing revenge, but by becoming something greater than they ever imagined. They thought their absence would destroy you, but all it did was clear the path for your growth. At first, they told themselves it was temporary, that you were faking it, that your success was luck, that you'd eventually come crawling back. But time has a way of revealing the truth. And now, as they sit stagnant, watching you thrive, the realization is hitting them harder than anything else. They underestimated you, and now they have to live with that regret. The worst part? They have no control over it. They have to watch from the sidelines, powerless, knowing they once had access to you and lost it forever. They scroll through your success, hear your name in places they never expected, see you thriving in ways they swore you never would. And every milestone of yours? It's a reminder that their betrayal didn't break you. It set you free. They thought you would always be beneath them, that you would stay small, that you would never escape the role they cast you in. Now they can't even reach you. And that's what haunts them. Not your anger, not your revenge, but the cold, hard truth that they are now irrelevant to your life. They tell themselves it doesn't bother them, that they don't care, that they don't think about you anymore. But they do. They obsess over it. They hear your name and feel the sting of regret. They see your progress and realize they miscalculated. They watch you succeed and know deep down they lost something they will never get back. They wrote you off as a failure. Now they're forced to sit in the shadows while you rise so high that they'll spend the rest of their lives wondering how they ever had the audacity to doubt you. And the best part? You don't even think about them anymore. Number 12. They wanted you to beg. Now they're the ones on their knees. A fool cuts off a good hand, only to realize too late that they can't survive without it. They thought they had power over you, thought they could strip you of everything, your confidence, your dignity, your worth, and leave you crawling back, desperate for their approval, their validation, their presence. They assumed you needed them, that you couldn't function without their acceptance. In their mind, you would always be the one chasing, the one apologizing, the one trying to fix what they shattered. But what they didn't expect? You walked away. No begging, no pleading, no chasing, just silence. And that silence, it shook them to their core, because people who thrive on control need a reaction. They need to feel superior, to feel like they have the upper hand. They orchestrate pain expecting a response. But when you refuse to give them one, you stole the very power they thought they had over you. At first, they told themselves you were just being stubborn, that you'd come back once reality hit, once you realized you couldn't do this alone. They waited for you to reach out, to break down, to prove them right. But time passed, and instead of seeing you broken, they watched you rise, stronger, wiser, completely untouchable. And that's when the shift happened. They thought you would beg for them. But now, they're the ones on their knees, because they finally understand. You were never the weak one, you were the prize, and they threw it all away. They destroyed something irreplaceable and walked away thinking they'd won, only to realize, too late, that they had lost the one thing that truly mattered. Now, they replay every moment, every mistake, every lie they told themselves about you. They see it clearly. You were the blessing they took for granted. They thought they could replace you, thought they could find someone better, someone easier to manipulate, someone who would feed their ego without question. But the replacements never matched up. No one had your depth, your loyalty, your presence. And now, they want you back. But here's the brutal truth. They can't have you, because you don't even see them anymore. While they sit there drowning in their own regret, you're too busy thriving to even acknowledge their existence. The same person they wanted to see broken is now so far above them that they don't even qualify for your attention. And that's the real punishment. Not your anger, not your revenge, just your absence. The cold, undeniable truth that their actions didn't destroy you. They only erased themselves from your life. They wanted you on your knees. Now, they're the ones praying for another chance. And you don't even look back. Number 13. They thought you needed them. Now they realize they needed you. Some people only realize your value when they're left with nothing but the echo of your absence. They convinced themselves they were the prize, thought you were lucky to have them in your life. They believed you needed them, that without their presence, their validation, their approval, you'd be lost. They moved like they were irreplaceable, like you would always be there, always waiting, always willing to forgive. But what they never saw coming? The day you realized your own worth. You walked away. No dramatic exit, no long explanations, no desperate attempts to make them understand. Just silence. And at first, they didn't even notice. They assumed you'd come running back. That time would break you down. That one day you'd wake up and realize you couldn't function without them. But then, something terrifying happened. You didn't come back. Instead of falling apart, you flourished. Instead of drowning in regret, you thrived. And suddenly, they weren't so sure of themselves anymore. Suddenly, they started wondering if they had made a mistake, because the moment you stopped needing them, they were forced to face a truth they had been avoiding all along. It was never you who needed them. It was always them who needed you. Now, as time stretches on, the weight of your absence begins to crush them. Every moment without you feels heavier. They start replaying the past, picking apart every detail, searching for the exact moment they lost their grip on you. And what makes it worse? You don't even look back. They see you rising, without them. They watch you laugh, glow, succeed, without them. And it burns. Because they swore you'd fall apart, swore you'd never make it, swore you'd always be stuck in the same place. But instead, they're the ones standing still, while you keep moving forward, untouchable. At first, they tell themselves it's nothing, that they don't care, that they can replace you. But deep down, something eats away at them, because every attempt to fill the space you left feels empty. No one sees them the way you did. No one understands them like you did. No one matches your presence. That's when the regret sets in. That's when they realize the one thing they never considered, the fact that you were the rare one, the valuable one, the irreplaceable one. And now, they're the ones struggling, watching from the outside, wishing they had done things differently, wishing they had appreciated you before it was too late. But here's the truth they can't escape. You don't need them anymore. And that's something they will never be able to change. They thought you needed them. Now, they're the ones gasping for air in the void you left behind. And you? You've never been freer. Number 14. They tried to dim your light. Now, they're blinded by your glow. Some people hate the sun because it exposes their shadows. They saw your light, and it made them uncomfortable. It wasn't just your strength, your resilience, or your presence. It was the way you carried something they never could. Confidence, authenticity, power. They resented the fact that you didn't need validation to shine, that your energy wasn't dependent on their approval. So they did what weak people always do when they feel threatened. They tried to dim you. Maybe they did it subtly, downplaying your accomplishments, planting doubts in your mind, making you feel like you weren't enough. Or maybe they did it openly, mocking you, sabotaging you, spreading lies, making you question your own worth. However they did it, the goal was always the same: to make you shrink, to make you believe that you were never as bright, as powerful, as unstoppable as you truly are. They thought if they could dim your light, they could control you. But what they didn't realize, you were never dependent on their approval to shine. They mistook your kindness for weakness, mistook your patience for passivity, mistook your willingness to see the good in them as an opportunity to manipulate you. They were so desperate to outshine you that they never considered what would happen if you stopped holding back. And that's exactly what you did. Instead of letting them diminish you, you turned up the heat. You stopped doubting yourself. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped watering yourself down for people who couldn't handle your intensity. You embraced the fire inside you and let it burn as brightly as it was always meant to. And now, they can't stand to look at you. The same ones who tried to downplay you are now forced to watch you rise. The same ones who tried to dull your shine are now choking on their own bitterness. They wanted you to stay small so they could feel big. But now, as they sit in the same place they were before, watching you move further and further ahead, they finally see the truth. You were never the problem. Their own insecurity was. At first, they tell themselves it's nothing. They roll their eyes, dismiss your success, call it luck. But deep down, it eats at them, because every single step you take forward is proof that they had no real power over you. that they never had control in the first place. And that's the real punishment. Not karma, not revenge, just the simple, brutal truth that they lost access to something they never deserved in the first place. They tried to dim your light. Now they're blinded by your glow. And the best part? You haven't even reached your full power yet. Number 15. They thought you were beneath them. Now they can't even reach you. Some people laugh when you're struggling, but cry when you surpass them. They looked down on you, thought they were superior, untouchable, irreplaceable. They convinced themselves you would always be behind them, chasing, admiring, waiting for their approval. They saw your kindness as weakness, your patience as desperation, your loyalty as servitude. In their mind, you were beneath them, and they made sure you knew it. They dismissed your ideas, belittled your dreams, made you question your own worth. They thrived on making you feel small because it made them feel big. They had to convince themselves you would never rise, because the thought of you standing beside them, let alone above them, was something their fragile ego couldn't handle. But what they didn't realize, you were never beneath them, you were just growing. And now, they can't even reach you. The same people who underestimated you, mocked you, tried to keep you in a box. Now they're stuck watching you soar past every limit they thought you had. The people who once saw themselves as above you are now beneath your notice. And that's a pain far worse than anything you could have ever done to them. At first, they tell themselves it's just luck. They try to convince themselves you didn't earn your success, that somehow the universe made a mistake. They laugh it off, hoping you'll stumble, waiting for proof that you're still the person they convinced themselves you were. But time keeps proving them wrong. Every time they hear your name, see your progress, or realize just how much you've outgrown them, the truth becomes harder to deny. The person they once dismissed as insignificant is now untouchable. And the worst part, they lost access to you forever. Now they struggle with the one thing their ego can't handle: regret. They think about the opportunities they had to support you, the moments they could have stood beside you instead of against you. They replay the times they looked down on you and wonder how they could have been so blind. But it's too late. Because while they stayed stagnant, you evolved. While they wasted time trying to keep you beneath them, you kept climbing. And now, they don't even exist in your world. That's the real punishment. Not your anger, not your revenge, but the brutal reality that they are nothing to you now. You don't hate them. You don't resent them. You simply don't think about them at all. And nothing is more painful than realizing that the person you once believed was beneath you has risen so high that you will never reach them again. Number 16. They thought they broke you. Now they fear your comeback. The greatest mistake your enemies ever made was thinking you wouldn't rise again. They thought they had finished you, thought the pain they inflicted, the betrayal they dealt, and the chaos they created would be the end of you. They stood over your downfall, smug and satisfied, believing that you would never recover. They convinced themselves that the wounds they left were too deep, that you'd stay shattered, that the version of you they destroyed would never return. And for a moment, maybe you believed it too, because the pain was unbearable. The weight of their actions crushed you. You questioned yourself, doubted your worth, and wondered if you'd ever feel whole again. They sat back and watched, waiting for you to break completely, waiting for you to collapse under the weight of everything they did. But they made one fatal miscalculation. They thought they broke you. But what they really did was build you. Every ounce of suffering they put you through became fuel. Every betrayal, every lie, every moment of despair, they all became bricks in the foundation of your comeback. The fire they set to destroy you only forged you into something unbreakable. They thought they had buried you, but all they really did was plant a seed. And now you're rising in a way they never saw coming. And that terrifies them. Because now the person they left behind is gone. You aren't the same. You don't operate from a place of pain anymore. You operate from power. You don't seek revenge. You seek evolution. You don't need their validation. You've outgrown their entire existence. And they see it happening. At first they try to brush it off. They tell themselves you're just pretending, that you'll never really make it, that your glow-up is fake, temporary affront. But the more they watch, the harder it becomes to deny. Because your name is still being spoken. Your presence is still felt. And now, your success is louder than their betrayal ever was. And this time, you're not just coming back. You're coming back untouchable. You've learned. You've rebuilt yourself in a way that can't be shaken. You've taken every lesson, every scar, every wound, and turned them into weapons. And they don't know what to do with that. They expected you to stay wounded, to stay small, to stay in the role they cast you in. But now, they realize they don't have a script for this version of you. The version that doesn't react. The version that doesn't beg. The version that doesn't even acknowledge their existence anymore. And that's what scares them the most. Because the worst thing you could have ever done wasn't to fight them. It wasn't to get revenge. It wasn't to expose them or make them suffer. The worst thing you ever did was prove that you never needed them in the first place. Now, they're the ones who can't sleep. The ones haunted by their own actions. The ones wondering how they ever thought they could destroy someone like you. Because now they see it clearly. They never had power over you. It was all an illusion. And now they fear the inevitable. Because they know your comeback isn't just about success. It's about becoming something so powerful, so untouchable, so unstoppable that they have no choice but to watch you rise, knowing they will never be part of your story again. They thought they had ended you. Now, they have to live with the fact that they only made you unstoppable. And so, chosen one, the truth becomes undeniable. They never had the power they thought they did. They wanted to break you, erase you, keep you trapped in their game. But instead, you rose. You turned every betrayal into strength, every wound into wisdom, every setback into fuel. And now, they are the ones left behind. Let them watch. Let them regret. Let them choke on the consequences of their own actions. If you're done playing small, if you're ready to step into your power, like this video, hit subscribe, drop 77 in the comments, and share this with another chosen one.